You know, oftentimes it's really easy for us to go home and just kind of put this thought out of our mind that families don't have safe housing because we go home to a very nice home that is safe for our children. But for many families in Grand Rapids, this is just a very true and present reality.
One day I got a call from a woman named Nikki. She explained to me that her and her husband just moved back to Michigan from California.
And we were living in a rental house that just really wasn't working out very well. And so we were pretty desperate into our house search. And we found this house and just kind of fell in love with it. And we knew there was a lot of work to be done, but we were just excited to have found something that was working out.
So she had been driving up and down Franklin and had noticed our Get the Let Out sign in the window. That kind of flagged something for her in her mind because she said she had been previously speaking with a relative about the possibility of lead in the home since she knew it was a historic house.
And so I went home and got on the computer and I Googled Get the Lead Out in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and the Healthy Homes Coalition came up. We really weren't terribly educated or knowledgeable about lead paint being a problem when we closed on this house.
So right after Nikki called on the same day, I decided to go over and bring her all the information about lead hazards as well as working lead safe and other environmental hazards that could be found in the home, such as mold and radon.
We weren't really aware of the lead problem, particularly on the inside of the house. We just kind of thought that we could work on fixing up the house over time. And we knew the windows were old and they would probably have to be replaced, but at the time we were thinking, well, we could just do, you know, one room of windows a year for the next, 10 years or something like that. And it really wasn't until the lead issue was brought to our attention that we realized the extent of the work that pretty much had to be done right away just to make this a safe place for us to live.
For Nikki, she had no idea that there could still be lead in the home. I think it's a common misconception that lead isn't still a problem, but 85% of the homes in Grand Rapids were built before 1978 and could contain lead-based paint.
That made a huge difference because without talking to Kelly and without really knowing before we had the paint tested for lead, we would have started scraping and sanding and painting ourselves in the house. That was the plan.
So Nikki ended up applying for the Get the Lead Out program, getting approved, and since it was such a historic home, she opted, instead of having vinyl siding put on the outside of her home, to have her home scraped and painted to be made lead safe.
Anyone could call the Healthy Homes Coalition, and with the right questions you could probably find out if there's a chance that someone has lead paint in their homes and then come and do a test, because it's just not worth the risk.
And especially if you have children under 6, and in Nikki's case, a 1-year-old, you need to be proactive to see if there are lead hazards present and to get your children tested to make sure they're not exposed.
Some families are able to take care of this pretty efficiently. They're on top of it, and they have some resources and some resiliency to deal with the problem. But as we've learned, there are also those families where prevention is exceedingly important.
Mary Kemker called our office and we signed her up for a first visit. And upon arriving at the home, we discovered that it was this large old farmhouse on the corner with a huge yard.
We have 4 kids. We have Lily, who's 7 months, Maddie is 10, Keegan is 7, and Jaden is 4. And my husband Jeremy, who happens to be at work right now.
Mary and her family don't have a lot of money. They do what they can, especially since she has 4 kids, including her newborn. They were working on fixing up their home little by little.
We had noticed that our 4-year-old's lead results were bouncing back and forth, and so we knew there had to be somewhere. We just didn't know where and how it was getting in.
She just wasn't sure of the options that she had available to her.
When we found Healthy Homes at the kindergarten roundup and found out that we were eligible to have someone come out and take a look, it was pretty amazing.
The lead level in the paint chip that we checked from the exterior of the house actually came back 40 times higher than what the Environmental Protection Agency recommends as a safe level for lead.
I never thought that it was our house that was basically poisoning her. I figured it was just outside stuff from playing in the yard and going to other playgrounds and stuff.
And a lot of people really just don't know, and they're not aware of hazards in their home and how simple it is, how simple it can be to address those hazards.
Afterwards, they came in and showed me how to clean, and it was very shocking to know that all you need was a little bit of dish soap and water, and that takes care of just about everything. That saved me a lot on cleaning expenses.
The city's Get the Lead Out program was a really good fit for the Kemker family. Since they are do-it-yourselfers, they are very willing to learn how to do the work and do it themselves, but overall they were just very overwhelmed by the whole process and not knowing what resources were available in the community.
It was scary knowing that our entire house was like soaked in it, and there wasn't a whole lot that I was going to be able to do because we didn't have the money for any of it. So Healthy Homes definitely, it saved our home, and it also saved our family from having to live somewhere else.
It's really important that we keep these families in mind that are living on very restricted incomes and are really struggling to find the few limited places to live in Grand Rapids that are safe for their kids, that are up to par, that are good homes in which to raise children. It's really important we don't forget about those families. But then sometimes we have to react to situations when it's too late, where a child's already been lead poisoned or a child's already been hurt.
Stephanie called Healthy Homes Coalition about 2 months ago, and I was the one that answered the phone, and she was complaining about having some pest problems.
I never experienced roaches until that house, never. I didn't even know what they looked like.
One of the skills that I've gained since working here is the ability to prioritize hazards in homes, and as soon as we went into Stephanie's house, it was evident that while she had issues with cockroaches, the biggest problem was the lead paint that was on the side of the house and on the windows. During the first visit, Stephanie and I pretty much only talked about lead, and we spent a long time figuring out what our next steps were going to be. It just so happened that Randy, Stephanie's eldest daughter, was taking her daughter, Nicere, to the doctor, and I suggested that she get tested for lead.
I mean, I listened. I guess until we got the results, I didn't really think it would affect us, the kids. I really didn't think it'd come back a high number. I thought we'd be okay.
We received a phone call on Friday afternoon, just before the office was closing, from Stephanie. She was hysterical. She was really upset. And she was so upset because Nicere's results came back and she had a blood lead level of a 50, which a lead-poisoned child has a level of a 10.
Doctors called me shockingly and told me I had an hour to get her retested. If her level was still high, she was going to be hospitalized.
A 10-month-old baby is being treated at DeVos Children's Hospital tonight with a severe case of lead poisoning. Experts say it was actually caused by the home she lived in.
The family has nowhere to live when they leave the hospital. Fox 17's Carl Apple has our story tonight.
Little Nicere Vance is recovering at DeVos Children's Hospital after a close call. A blood lead level of 10 is considered lead poisoning. This child scored a 50.
I was scared. I thought there was no more chance of her living. I thought she was going to die.
Her mother, Randy, discovered it by accident. Their landlord suggested they call the Healthy Homes Coalition to help them deal with roaches. The coalition saw the age of the home and tested the 3 small children who lived there.
If there's chipping paint, peeling paint, or residue in the windowsills, we know that there's a problem.
Meanwhile, Nicere is recovering. Her lead level is down to 32 now. But what happens next? The family can't find a home on short notice like this, which means their only option may be a shelter, and many of those are full.
Our financial issues are not the greatest. We don't have anywhere to go, so I can't leave the hospital until we have a place to go.
So our main goal after finding out that Nicere was lead poisoned at the house was to find safe housing for that family.
So Danielle and I went to Salvation Army, and all the shelters were full, so they had given us a week at a hotel to try to buy me some time as to figure out where to go. And thankful to Paul from Healthy Homes, he contacted Link, who offered me an apartment for me and the kids to stay in.
I depend on my mom a lot to help me with my daughter because I'm a young mom, so I can't do it all by myself. So I was very scared and didn't know what to think. I thought I was going to have to move on my own.
And I am so thankful to Healthy Homes, you know, because if Danielle would not have spoke to me so much about it, I would have never had her tested. I never told Randy to have her tested, because looking at her, she's a normal 10-month-old baby. You would not have thought anything. She's always laughing, smiling, happy as can be.
I'm glad that I was a part of this organization at this time, because working with Stephanie and her family has been a great learning opportunity for me, and it has showed me that with determination and with knowledge about resources, you can really make a difference in somebody's life.
You know, at Healthy Homes, we often find that the really true solutions are bigger than our organization, and there's a lot of work for us to do to make sure that things are progressing in the community, but oftentimes it's through the partnerships that we can forge with other partner agencies, like Link, providing housing for this family in need, like the City of Grand Rapids, to make sure our housing codes are truly protective of children, and like the people who support us and volunteer for us and make sure that the work that we're doing can get done and can get done today, now, before more children are harmed.